they're in Africa. They're lending money to countries to build ports and different infrastructure.
To build what?
Port,
And
harbors.
what's wrong with that?
And, well, because...
Countries that need ports get ports.
But they're making people dependent on... I mean, I know, it's the same thing that we've done, which is
No, it's not.
horrible around the world.
They are far more humanistic than the United States ever was.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. So...
Let me give you an example. Of course they are peddling for influence.
Yeah.
Yeah? But they are non-interventionist. Absolutely non-interventionist in a way that Europeans, the West, has never managed to fathom.
Hello everybody, welcome once again to AfriPost. I believe wherever you're watching us from, you're doing great. Now, Africa is a continent that every other power in the world is really looking at. United States has a vast interest in most African countries. European Union is always around the corner when African issues are mentioned. China is also looking at Africa. Russia has also vested interest in Africa. So what is it and why is it that Africa is really needed by every other power across the world? I want us to really watch this video where former Greek minister Yanis Varoufakis was asked by a United States journalist who was totally concerned of the increased dominance of China in Africa and was saying that China is really doing bad things in Africa. So I want us to watch this engagement and conversation and see how this really went on. Then let's talk about it after the video. Kindly watch.
I've been very concerned lately about China and sort of we have transferred so much money from our economy over to China by buying all those things and supporting their economy over there so they could make more and more money. They are now all over Africa, buying things and investing over there and getting those countries dependent on them and supporting, non-democratic people. And I'm just
like
wondering,
whom?
Well,
we are in a country that supports Saudi Arabia.
Yes, that's true. Right. So
suddenly we have a problem with, superpowers supporting non-democratic people?
Yes. I mean, yes, I do. But I also am just concerned that we've sort of created the economic power that China sort of has now, and they're using it, I fear, going to be using it against us eventually and against the better interests of a lot of people.
Allow me to put your mind to rest.
Okay. Great.
You shouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
It's very simple. And let me explain why you shouldn't worry about that. But please continue.
Well, I mean, they're in Africa. They're lending money to countries to build ports and different infrastructure.
To build what?
Port, harbors.
And what's wrong with that?
And, well, because...
Countries that need ports get ports.
But they're making people dependent on... I mean, I know, it's the same thing that we've done, which is horrible around the world.
They are far more humanistic than the United States ever was.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. So...
Let me give you an example. Of course they are peddling for influence.
Yeah.
Yeah? But they are non-interventionist. Absolutely non-interventionist in a way that Europeans, the West, has never managed to fathom.
But I have a feeling they have a longer-term thought process that is more interventionist.
All right. But anyway, let's judge what we see. Let's judge what.
Okay.
Wait, let's start at the beginning. The Chinese never asked Apple to go to Shenzhen and produce all the iPhones. It was Steve Jobs that decided that. Yeah? Mm-hmm. It was not China that went to Washington, D.C. and demanded that they buy a third of your national debt. If they hadn't bought it, you would be in serious trouble. Mm-hmm. Okay. Number three, I did allude to this in my talk. If in 2008 China had not cranked up their credit bubble, you would be in a new Great Depression now. Mm-hmm. So, China, the United States, and the European Union are absolutely synergistic, and they need one another in a way that if we fail to acknowledge and to nurture, billions of people, including the majority of the people in this country, are going to suffer. Now, I am not going to stand here and defend China and the Chinese Communist Party. I already made some negative remarks about the Chinese Communist Party in referring to, their attitudes as being compatible with those of Wolfgang Schäuble. My concern about China is the authoritarian manner in which the Chinese regime is treating the Chinese people. As a Democrat, I have a problem with this. Mind you, I have to tell you that, from my understanding of China, it's a very interesting social experiment, in the sense that at the local level, or the regional level, you now have a boisterous democracy. At the local and regional level. Even with popular success stories in overthrowing local authorities, local bureaucrats who have been corrupt, who have been this, who have been that, who have been the other. When it comes to the influence of China outside its borders, I have to say, firstly, it's quite remarkable that they don't seem to have any military ambitions. Secondly, Africa. I'll give you an example, a specific example. Ethiopia. 2004, because I happened to be there, and I have some first-hand experience of it. They went into Ethiopia. I'll tell you why they went into Ethiopia, because they suspected there was oil. Because China is a major industrial power, but it lacks primary resources. Now, instead of going into Africa with troops, colonially, destroying the country, killing people like the West has done for the last 100 years, what they did was they went to Addis Ababa and they said to the government, we would like, we can see you have problems with your infrastructure, we would like to build some new airports, upgrade your railway system, create a telephone system, and rebuild your roads. And we'll do this all for free. No strings attached. We don't want anything from you. And they did. Why did they do it? Because it's soft power. Because because they knew that if oil is discovered, and it was discovered later, then, of course, the Ethiopian government will be much more open to Chinese oil companies coming there. They have never combined their investment with imperialistic view. When I was Minister of Finance, I had a very interesting experience with COSCO, one of the Chinese national companies that in the end bought the port of Piraeus. When I moved into the ministry, I found a contract from the previous government that they had already sold the port of Piraeus for a pittance and under ridiculous conditions to the Chinese, under the guidance, of course, of the European Union and the International Monetary Fund as well. And in other words, as a minister, I was bound to a particular deal that was terrible for Greece. And I went to the Chinese and discussed it with them. And I was really astonished. I said to them, look, you're paying too little, you're not committing to a sufficient level of investment, and you are treating our workers as fodder. You are effectively subcontracting labor to horrible companies that exploit the workers, and I can't deal with this. Effectively, I proposed to them to renegotiate the contract, so instead of getting 67% of the shares of the port, they would get with the same price 51%. The remaining shares would go into the Greek pension fund system in order to bolster the capitalization of the public pensions. Secondly, I want you to commit to 180 million euros of investment within 12 months. And thirdly, proper collective bargaining with the trades unions and no subcontracting of labor. And to my astonishment, they said, okay. Can you imagine if that was a German company or an American company? That's why I'm saying I don't think you should worry.
Okay, I won't.
Now, if you listen to that engagement, you'd realize that this US journalist is somebody who has been indoctrinated by the Western propaganda that is really being pushed around, because most Western countries have really seen China as an enemy. And that is why United States has continued to have both economic and military threat towards China, because they see China as the greatest threat to their dominance of the world. Right now, in the books, it is stated that United States is really the superpower. If you look at the level of influence and engagement that China has across different countries in the world, you would really understand that China has become one of the most liked countries by different leaders and people across the world. This is because of the manner in which it is engaging others. You know, if you look at the engagement that United States has with other countries, it tends to be the hard power, where they try to show you their military strength, and then they come with economic sanctions and economic prosperity dangled, so that if you try to cough around, they will really give you the economic sanction so that you get limited. But if you look at the manner in which China is approaching Africa and even other parts of the world, China is coming with the soft power. It comes with the issue of persuading you into joining them in their dream, joining them in their desire to really make the world great and connected. Look at the China Belt and Road project that is really connecting Africa. Different parts of Africa are connected through this road and railway development that is continuing in different parts of Africa. And this is really something that is appreciated because it is opening up all parts of Africa for trade. It facilitates trade within the African continent so that different countries can work and trade with themselves. But when you look at how United States is relating with Africa, they are coming to really impose their will on Africans, both in morals, in the manner in which they want governments to be run, in the definition of leadership structure that should be adopted by these African countries. They are really interfering everywhere. And that is why, if you look at how Yanis Varoufakis is telling this journalist, it is open, because he's saying that China does not have any military presence in most African countries. In fact, if there is any, they could be in limited aspect. If you look at United States, they almost have the entire Africa surrounded by their soldiers. Go to any part of Africa, you will be told that there is a military base that is for United States. And that is the same with United Kingdom. It has military bases everywhere. Even in Kenya, they have their soldiers training. So this is something that the West is really not calculating well, because Africa as it is, gone are the days when Africa was afraid of facing the superpowers head on. Right now, you can see that South Africa in itself had taken Israel to the International Court of Justice because they are seeing what Israel is doing in Gaza, and they are not happy about it. And this is supported by many other African countries. So it is very important that we really appreciate the fact that Africa must work towards developing itself. And the only partner who will bring us true development is China and Russia, because they do not come to Africa with strings attached. They are coming with an intention of ensuring that Africa is empowered, our population is allowed to grow. They're not giving us their doctrines. For instance, if people were supporting same-sex marriages, you remember that it is a Western idea that is highly rampant in the United States. But they're coming to Africa and telling us that we must adopt that culture. And we must create laws that support these kind of people. That is like imposing your new ideology on other people. It is like neo-colonization is continuing. So I don't know what you think about this engagement, but I believe China is not a threat in Africa. And the only thing that is a threat is if we have corrupt leaders going to these other partners, international partners, and taking poor deals for their people, deprivement of effective services for African people. Tell me what you think down in the comment section. If you're watching us for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.